The little boy whispered, "Mama can't walk anymore." The cowboy lifted them both into his cabin. The wind whistled through the canyon, carrying a fine layer of dust that made the world look both empty and endless. Somewhere in that vast emptiness, a small figure struggled along the rocky path, dragging something behind him. Eli's small hands gripped the worn handle of a makeshift cart. On it lay his mother, Mara, pale and trembling, her legs too weak to carry her any longer. The boy's face was streaked with dirt and tears, and yet his eyes held a stubborn determination. He could feel the sun's warmth fading, and he knew they needed shelter before nightfall. "Mama, please, just a little farther," Eli whispered, his voice barely louder than the wind. He tried to keep his voice steady for both their sakes. "I promise, I'll get us to safety." Mara gave a faint smile, though her lips were dry and cracked. "You're brave, Eli, braver than I could ever be," she murmured, her voice weak but warm. "Keep going, my little cowboy." Eli felt a pang in his chest at her words. He wanted to be brave, but the canyon seemed endless, and each step was harder than the last. He could feel his small body trembling under the weight of the cart. Still, he refused to give up. His mother's life depended on him. The sound of crunching gravel behind them made Eli's heart leap. He froze, listening intently. The wind shifted, carrying a faint rumble, almost like footsteps. Not knowing if it was friend or foe, Eli's grip on the cart tightened. Suddenly, from the shadow of a cliff, a tall figure emerged. A man, broad-shouldered and wearing a long, dust-stained coat, stepped into the fading sunlight. A wide-brimmed hat shaded his face, but his eyes, sharp and steady, watched them closely. "Hey there," the man called in a calm, even voice. "You all right?" Eli's throat went dry. He had never seen a stranger before in the canyon, and though he wanted to be wary, something about the man felt different. There was no rush, no anger, no threat in his tone, only curiosity and care. "Mama can't walk anymore," Eli whispered, barely audible. "We don't have anywhere to go." The man's face softened. He knelt slightly, resting a hand on the edge of the cart. "I see," he said gently. "I'm Caleb, and you, what's your name, little one?" "Eli," the boy replied, his voice shaky. "This is my mama, Mara," Caleb nodded slowly. "All right, Eli, looks like you've had a tough day. Come on, let's get you both somewhere safe." Before Eli could protest, Caleb lifted the cart with ease, hoisting both mother and child onto his strong shoulders. Despite the boy's small size and Mara's fragile frame, Caleb moved as if it were nothing. His long coat fluttered behind him as he carried them toward a small speeder waiting nearby, its engine humming softly. Eli's eyes widened. You're strong," he exclaimed. "How can you lift both of us?" Caleb chuckled, a low, comforting sound. "Humans are stronger than they look," he said. "Sometimes we just need to try a little harder." As they rode across the canyon, the wind whipping past, Mara leaned against Caleb's chest, exhausted. "Thank you," she murmured. "I don't know how we would have made it." Caleb didn't answer immediately. His eyes scanned the horizon, alert to every sound, every movement. "We're not out of danger yet," he said finally. "There's something about this canyon, it's not empty. There are eyes watching us." Eli shivered. "Eyes? People, creatures? Maybe both," Caleb said. He did not elaborate, but the seriousness in his voice was enough to make the boy hold tighter to his mother. The speeder roared up the rocky path, leaping over small boulders and sand dunes. Caleb drove with skill and caution, ensuring Mara and Eli remained safe atop the moving vehicle. As night began to fall, the first stars of the alien sky appeared, sparkling against the darkening horizon. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a small wooden cabin tucked into the side of a hill. Smoke rose lazily from a chimney, and the warm glow of lights spilled from the windows. It looked like a safe haven in a wild, untamed world. Caleb set the cart down gently. Eli scrambled off, holding his mother's hand, tears of relief running down his cheeks. "We made it! We really made it!" he whispered. Mara smiled weakly, resting her head against Eli's shoulder. "We did thanks to him," she said softly, looking at Caleb with gratitude. Caleb stepped back, letting them settle in. "You're safe here for now," he said. "I'll get some water and food, then we'll see what we can do to help your legs." The cabin's interior was simple but warm. Shelves held jars of dried foods, a small stove flickered with light, and a few beds were neatly arranged. It smelled of herbs and wood smoke, a stark contrast to the harsh canyon outside. Eli's curiosity got the better of him. "Do you live here all alone?" he asked. Caleb smiled faintly. "Mostly," he admitted. "I like the quiet, the open space. Gives a person time to think and to help those who need it." Mara looked around, impressed despite her exhaustion. "It's cozy," she said. "Much better than the canyon." Caleb set down a cup of warm tea in front of Mara, who sipped slowly, feeling the warmth spread through her tired body. "You've got a strong boy here," Caleb said quietly to Mara. "He's brave taking care of you like that." Mara nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "He doesn't know how brave he is, but he learns every day. And I can't thank you enough for helping us." Outside, the wind howled through the canyon, carrying whispers of unseen creatures. Caleb glanced toward the window, his senses alert. He knew the frontier was never truly safe, and travelers were never truly alone in these lands. But for now, the cabin provided a moment of peace, a place to rest and regroup. Eli climbed onto a small stool, peering into the fire. "Do you think they'll find us?" he asked quietly. Caleb sat across from him, watching the flames dance. "Maybe," he said honestly. "But as long as we stick together, we'll face whatever comes our way. Humans, we always find a way." Mara rested back, her hand lightly gripping Eli's. "We have him now," she said softly. "And that's enough for tonight." Outside, the stars continued to shine, bright against the dark sky. And inside the cabin, a small family found shelter, hope, and the strength to face the challenges ahead. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in days they could breathe, rest, and feel the warmth of safety. Caleb looked at them, a determined glint in his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he was ready. For Eli, for Mara, and for the stubborn, unyielding spirit of humans, he would face whatever came next. And as the canyon's winds whispered through the night, Eli closed his eyes, clutching his mother's hand, dreaming of a future where they could walk free under the open sky again. The next morning, the first light of the twin suns stretched across the horizon, painting the desert in shades of gold and rose. Inside Caleb's cabin, the warmth of the small stove filled the room, chasing away the cold of the night. Mara lay on one of the small beds resting, while Eli sat beside her, his legs swinging nervously. Caleb moved quietly, gathering herbs and water from the shelves. "Your mother needs rest," he said gently to Eli, "and I'll make some food soon. But first we need to make sure she's comfortable." Eli nodded, watching Caleb with wide eyes. There was something about the man that made him feel safe, like a shield against the harsh world outside. "Will she get better?" he asked quietly, almost afraid to hear the answer. Caleb paused, leaning against the table. "I don't know, little one," he admitted honestly. "But we can make her strong enough to keep moving, and sometimes that's enough." Mara stirred, opening her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how I would have made it without you." Caleb knelt beside her, offering a warm smile. "Humans are stronger than they think," he said. "We find ways to survive, even when the world seems impossible." Eli's curiosity couldn't be contained. How do you know all this?" he asked. Caleb shrugged. "Experience, and a lot of mistakes," he admitted. "You learn to be ready for anything when you live out here." As the hours passed, Caleb worked quietly, tending to Mara's needs while teaching Eli simple tasks. He showed the boy how to gather clean water from the small spring nearby and how to make a fire with dry wood. Every step was a lesson in survival, but Caleb kept it fun, encouraging Eli with smiles and small jokes. "You see, Eli," Caleb said as he handed the boy a small bundle of herbs. Even the smallest actions can make a big difference. One herb, one cup of water, one little trick, it all matters. Eli nodded eagerly, absorbing every word. I want to help Mama get better, he said. I'll do anything. Mara reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. You already are helping Eli, she said softly, more than you know. As the day went on, Caleb and Mara shared stories about their lives. Mara explained that she had once been a scientist in a distant city, working to protect and preserve Earth's lost ecosystems. She had fled when the cities became dangerous, carrying knowledge that could help the frontier survive. Caleb listened carefully, impressed. You've got important knowledge, he said, and that makes you a target, but don't worry, we'll keep you safe. Eli's eyes grew wide. A target? Who would want to hurt us? Caleb's face grew serious. There are people and sometimes creatures who see knowledge as power. They think if they find you, they can control it, but we won't let that happen. The boy shivered but held his mother's hand tightly. Then we'll be careful, he said bravely. As evening approached, Caleb led them outside. The stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, and the desert air felt cool and calm. The cabin looked small and fragile, but in the light of the moons, it seemed like a strong fortress, standing against the vast wilderness. Caleb set up a small alarm system around the cabin using simple sensors and lights. Just in case anyone tries to find us, he explained. Eli helped, following instructions carefully and learning quickly. Mara watched with pride. You're learning so much, Eli, she said. You're already so brave. Eli blushed, looking down at his hands. I'm just trying to help, he said quietly. Night fell completely and the cabin glowed softly in the darkness. Mara rested, her breathing steady, while Eli sat by the fire, listening to Caleb hum a low tune. The boy felt safer than he had in days, and even though the canyon was still outside, the cabin felt like a little piece of home. But the quiet night was not empty. Shadows moved across the dunes, faint and distant, almost like watchers. Caleb noticed them immediately, his sharp eyes catching the glint of light reflecting off metal surfaces. Eli, he said quietly, stay inside the cabin, and Mara, keep your head down. The boy's stomach tightened. Who's out there? He asked. Nothing yet, Caleb replied, but we'll be ready if they come closer. Humans have a way of surprising those who think we're weak. As the hours passed, the shadows moved, testing the perimeter, but none dared come closer to the cabin. Caleb remained vigilant, teaching Eli to notice even the smallest details in the environment. He explained how humans could use observation, knowledge, and creativity to stay safe and thrive in harsh conditions. You see, Eli, Caleb said, it's not just strength that keeps us alive. It's thinking ahead, learning, and helping each other. That's what makes humans human. Eli nodded, his eyes wide with understanding. I want to be like that, he said. I want to help people too. Mara smiled, proud of her son. You already are, she said softly. The next morning, Caleb decided it was time to move a little further from the canyon. The area around the cabin was safe, but isolation could be dangerous if supplies ran low. He wanted to teach Eli how to navigate the land, how to find water and food, and how to use simple tools. They packed lightly, with Mara riding in a small cart again, supported by Caleb. Eli helped gather supplies, feeling important and useful for the first time in days. As they moved across the desert, Caleb pointed out landmarks. A strange rock formation that could hide them from view, a small grove of hardy trees that provided shade and water, and a hidden spring that could refill their canteens. Eli soaked up every detail, asking questions and learning quickly. You see, Eli, Caleb said, humans have a way of seeing what others miss. We notice small things and we use them to survive. That's how we stay alive, even when the world seems impossible. Eli nodded eagerly. I'll remember all of this, he said. I want to be strong like you. Mara watched them, her heart swelling with hope. You're learning from the best, she said softly, and I feel stronger just being here. By midday, they reached a small plateau overlooking the canyon. The view was breathtaking, rolling dunes, jagged cliffs, and the endless sky. Eli gasped in wonder, forgetting his fear for a moment. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Caleb smiled. "It is, and it's ours to explore, to learn from, and to protect." As they rested, Caleb explained more about life on the frontier. He told stories of humans facing challenges far greater than themselves, using only their minds, courage, and determination. Eli listened intently, realizing that bravery was not just about fighting. It was about thinking, helping, and never giving up. Mara felt a warmth in her heart. "This place, this cabin, and you, Caleb," she said, looking at him gratefully, "you've given us hope." Caleb shrugged, looking out at the horizon. "Humans are made to face the impossible," he said simply. "We just need a little courage, a little heart, and someone to guide us when the road gets rough." Eli leaned against his mother, feeling safe and inspired. "I want to learn everything," he said. "I want to be ready for anything." The day faded into evening, and the small family returned to the cabin. As they settled in, the wind whispered through the canyon, carrying distant sounds of movement. Caleb's eyes scanned the horizon once more, aware that challenges were never far away. But for now, the cabin was safe, and the small family felt a sense of peace they hadn't known in a long time. Eli helped his mother drink some warm tea, learning patience and care. Caleb prepared a simple meal, sharing stories that made them laugh, even in the midst of uncertainty. And as the twin moons rose, casting silver light over the desert, Eli drifted to sleep, holding his mother's hand. He dreamed not of fear or danger, but of courage, learning, and a future where humans could thrive, no matter the obstacles. Caleb watched them both, a quiet determination in his eyes. Tomorrow would bring more lessons, more challenges, and perhaps new friends or enemies. But for tonight, he allowed himself to believe that humans, even in the harshest worlds, could survive, grow, and shine. And in that quiet cabin, surrounded by desert and starlight, hope lived, small, fragile, but unwavering. The morning sun stretched over the horizon, filling the sky with gentle orange light. Caleb, Mara, and Eli had settled into a quiet rhythm at the cabin. Life was simple: water from the spring, meals from stored rations, and lessons from Caleb on how to survive in the harsh desert. Yet, even in this calm, Caleb's sharp eyes never rested. "Eli," Caleb said, crouching to the boy's level, "today we'll practice noticing the little things around us. Every detail can make a difference." Eli's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Like what?" Caleb pointed toward the dunes. "See that rock with a stripe across it? Or that cluster of bushes near the edge of the canyon? Anything unusual could mean water, shelter, or even a path to safety if trouble comes." The boy nodded eagerly. "I'll remember everything," he said. Mara watched from the cabin doorway, her hand resting lightly on her lap. "You're teaching him well," she said softly. "Eli is learning more than just survival, he's learning courage." Caleb smiled faintly. "That's the most important thing," he said. "Courage and thinking ahead, that's what makes humans human." The morning passed with small lessons: how to gather clean water, how to read the land, and how to use simple tools to make life easier. Eli learned quickly, practicing each task with determination. Mara's eyes glimmered with pride. Despite her weakness, she felt strength in her son and in the man who had become their protector. By noon, Caleb decided it was time for a longer walk beyond the immediate plateau. "There's a grove a few miles from here," he said. "It has shade, food, and even a small stream. We'll go together. It's good to see the land and learn where to find resources." The journey was slow. Mara rested in the cart while Caleb and Eli moved carefully, stepping over rocks and through soft sand. Eli asked countless questions, and Caleb answered each with patience, explaining why every detail mattered. Suddenly, Eli froze, pointing ahead. "Look, that rock, it's shiny." Caleb knelt beside him. "Good eye," he said. "That could be quartz or something else." In the right hands, even a rock can help us survive. Humans notice things others overlook. Eli's face lit up. I want to notice everything. You will, Caleb assured him. With practice, patience, and courage, you'll notice more than most adults ever do. They continued toward the grove, the sun climbing higher in the sky. The air grew warmer, but the promise of water and shade kept their spirits up. When they arrived, Eli's eyes widened. A small cluster of trees provided a perfect canopy of green. The stream gurgled gently, reflecting the sunlight. It was a rare oasis in the vast desert, a small pocket of life and hope. Mara smiled weakly, breathing in the fresh scent of leaves and water. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "I haven't seen anything like this in months." Caleb nodded. "It's amazing what humans can find and protect," he said, "and it's amazing what we can do together." Eli helped his mother drink water and wash her hands. "See, Mama," he said, "we can take care of each other." Mara's eyes glistened. "Yes, Eli. That's why humans survive. We help each other even when things seem impossible." As they rested, Caleb noticed movement at the edge of the grove. Small figures, cautious and curious, observed them from behind rocks and bushes. Caleb squinted, assessing the situation. "Eli," he said quietly, "stay close. Nothing to worry about yet, but humans aren't the only ones curious about this place." The figures did not approach. They seemed hesitant, watching the trio with interest rather than hostility. Caleb recognized the behavior from years on the frontier. Some creatures were intelligent, cautious, and respectful of other life. Others, not so much. Mara asked softly, "Are they dangerous?" "Not always," Caleb explained. "Sometimes it's just curiosity. But humans must be ready for anything. Observe, think, act." Eli nodded, trying to mimic Caleb's serious expression. "Observe, think, act," he repeated. The rest of the day passed with more lessons. Eli learned how to build small shelters from branches, how to mark trails, and how to use natural signs to find food. Mara rested but participated, giving advice and encouragement. As evening approached, the strange figures from the grove began to retreat, disappearing into the desert. Caleb watched them go, satisfied that they had not shown aggression. Humans often earn respect by staying calm, thinking fast, and helping each other, he said to Eli. The boy looked up. "So, humans are clever," Caleb smiled. "More than you know, and when we use our brains with courage and heart, nothing is impossible." That night the cabin glowed warmly against the dark desert. Eli sat by the fire, practicing the lessons of the day, while Mara rested, feeling safer than she had in months. Caleb hummed quietly, his mind alert to the distant sounds of the desert, but also allowing himself a moment of peace. Suddenly, a soft knock echoed from the cabin's outer door. Caleb froze, listening. Eli clutched his mother's hand, his heart racing. "Stay calm," Caleb whispered. He opened the door carefully. Outside stood a small child, no older than Eli, carrying a simple bag. Her clothes were dusty and she looked scared, but her eyes shone with hope. I need help," the girl said softly. "My family, they're lost. Can you help us?" Caleb looked at her, then at Mara and Eli. "Come inside," he said. "We'll see what we can do." Eli's eyes widened. "Another kid, we can help her too." "Yes," Caleb said. "That's what humans do. We help each other." The girl's name was Lena. She told them her family had been traveling across the desert, searching for safety, when they got separated during a sandstorm. Her courage reminded Eli of himself, and he felt an immediate connection. Mara helped Lena wash and rest while Caleb and Eli prepared a simple meal. Around the fire, the two children shared stories of their adventures, mistakes, and small victories. Caleb watched quietly, a sense of pride swelling in his chest. Humans, he thought, were remarkable, not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because of their courage, their creativity, and their hearts. As the night deepened, Caleb taught both children a small game, using sticks and stones to create patterns that represented different paths and resources. "This is how humans think ahead," he explained. "We plan, we learn, and we help each other. That's our strength." Eli and Lena played eagerly, learning quickly. Mara smiled at the sight, feeling warmth and hope she hadn't felt in a long time. Later, as they settled down to sleep, Caleb spoke quietly to Eli. "Today, you saw something important. Humans can face challenges by staying calm, thinking carefully, and working together. That's what makes us strong, even in the hardest places." Eli nodded, understanding more than Caleb expected. I want to help everyone like you," he whispered. Caleb ruffled his hair gently. "You already do, Eli. That's the start of being truly human." Outside, the desert stretched endlessly under the twin moons, silent and mysterious. But inside the cabin, warmth, light, and the human spirit shone brightly. Eli, Mara, Lena, and Caleb had found safety, yes, but more importantly, they had found trust, courage, and hope. Caleb knew the journey ahead would be full of challenges. There would be dangers, lessons, and unexpected turns. But he also knew one undeniable truth. Humans, when united, could face any obstacle with cleverness, heart, and courage. And as the fire crackled and the children drifted to sleep, he allowed himself a small smile. For the first time in a long time, the frontier didn't feel quite so lonely. Here, in the quiet cabin, humans could shine, not through weapons or power, but through the strength of their spirit. And that, Caleb knew, was more important than anything the desert could throw at them. The next morning, the desert air was crisp and clear. Caleb, Mara, Eli, and Lena had settled into a steady routine at the cabin. The children were learning quickly, and Mara was growing stronger under Caleb's careful guidance. Yet the horizon held more than the soft glow of sunrise. It held challenges they could not yet see. Caleb stood outside the cabin, scanning the desert with sharp eyes. "The land looks peaceful," he said aloud, "but that can change in a heartbeat. Humans must always be ready." Eli ran up to him carrying a small bundle of herbs. "I want to help, Caleb. I learned how to find water and mark the path." Caleb smiled, ruffling the boy's hair. "Good job, Eli. Today we'll practice using what you've learned. That's how humans stay strong." Lena followed, curious and eager. "I want to help too, can I?" "Of course," Caleb said. "Everyone has a role." They set out across the plateau, heading toward a cluster of rocky hills. Caleb taught the children how to read the land, the tracks of animals, the subtle signs of water nearby, and the shadows that could indicate safe or dangerous paths. Eli's eyes grew wide as he realized how much information the desert held if you only knew where to look. "Humans notice what others miss," Caleb explained. "We use our brains, our courage, and each other to survive. That's what makes us strong." For a while, their journey was peaceful. Birds called overhead, and a gentle breeze cooled the desert heat. Mara watched from the cart, resting and smiling as the children practiced the lessons Caleb had taught them. Suddenly, Eli stopped and pointed toward the horizon. "Look, the sand, it's moving strangely." Caleb squinted. At first, it seemed like nothing, just a trick of the light. But then he saw the faint shimmer of distant shapes moving across the dunes. Not far away, they seemed to be observing the group carefully, testing the distance. "Stay calm," Caleb whispered. "We don't know what they want yet, but humans stay ready and smart." The figures moved slowly closer, curious but cautious. Caleb signaled for the children to stay behind him. "Eli, Lena, remember what we practiced. Watch, think, and act carefully." The movement of the figures was deliberate. They were intelligent creatures, not animals, and they seemed to be assessing the humans from afar. Caleb knew they had to use their wits to avoid danger without aggression. He instructed Eli and Lena to gather rocks and sticks, while Mara helped him set up simple markers and signals. "We'll show them that humans are clever but not hostile," Caleb explained. Eli and Lena worked carefully, following Caleb's instructions. They arranged sticks and rocks in patterns that could be seen from a distance, signaling their presence and intelligence. Caleb smiled quietly. Humans had a unique way of communicating, even without words. As the sun climbed higher, the figures paused, observing the patterns the humans had created. Caleb stepped forward slowly, raising his hand in a gesture of peace. "We mean no harm," he called. "We are travelers, learning from the land, and we respect you." To his surprise, the figures responded. They mimicked the gestures, showing curiosity rather than aggression. Mara gasped softly. They understand your signs." "Yes," Caleb said. "Humans are remarkable. We notice, we adapt, and we communicate in ways others don't expect. That's our strength." The creatures moved closer, and the humans remained calm. Eli and Lena held their ground, trusting Caleb's guidance. The desert, once vast and lonely, now felt alive with possibility. After a while, the figures turned and moved back toward the horizon, leaving the humans unharmed. Caleb exhaled slowly. "See, courage, thinking ahead, and cooperation work. Humans can face challenges without fighting. We win with our brains and our hearts." Eli jumped in excitement. "We did it, we made them understand." Mara smiled, her eyes glistening. "Yes, and we stayed safe." The group returned to the cabin, tired but proud. Caleb praised the children for their bravery and cleverness. "Humans can do amazing things," he said. "Even when the odds seem impossible, we find a way." That evening, as the cabin glowed softly in the desert night, Caleb gathered the children and Mara around the fire. He spoke quietly but with determination. "Tomorrow, we'll explore another part of the plateau. You'll continue to learn, and you'll see more ways humans can survive and thrive." Eli listened intently. "I want to learn everything, Caleb. I want to be ready for anything." "And you will," Caleb assured him. "Humans are built to adapt, to think, and to care." "That's our greatest power," Mara nodded. "You've given us hope," she said. "Not just safety, but the knowledge that we can face whatever comes next." Caleb looked at them, feeling a deep sense of responsibility. The desert was harsh, unpredictable, and full of unseen challenges. But humans, he knew, had a way of turning even the hardest situations into opportunities. That night, the desert whispered around the cabin, carrying sounds of distant winds and shifting sands. Caleb kept watch briefly, alert but calm. Eli and Lena slept soundly, dreaming of adventure and learning. Mara rested peacefully, strengthened by the safety and care of the cabin. As Caleb sat by the fire, he thought about the future. There would be more challenges, more unknown creatures and tests of courage. But he also knew that humans, when united, could face anything. Creativity, teamwork, and heart were stronger than fear. Outside, the twin moons rose, casting silver light over the desert dunes. Inside, the humans rested, readying themselves for the next day. And Caleb, watching over them, smiled quietly. Humans could shine, even in the harshest places, because they had something no one else could take, the human spirit. Eli stirred in his sleep, murmuring, "I want to help everyone like Caleb." Caleb placed a hand gently on the boy's shoulder. "You already do, Eli. That's the start of something great." The desert was vast and challenges were waiting. But inside the cabin, humans had proven that courage, intelligence, and kindness could overcome obstacles without harm. Caleb, Mara, Eli, and Lena had learned a truth that would guide them for the rest of their journey. Humans, even when small and alone, could face any challenge against all odds. And as the fire crackled softly, the family of humans rested, prepared to meet whatever the frontier might bring next. The sun rose slowly over the desert, its warm light spilling across the cabin and the surrounding plateau. For Caleb, Mara, Eli, and Lena, it was another day of learning, growing, and surviving. But Caleb knew that today could bring something different. The desert had a way of testing humans in unexpected ways, and he could feel a change in the air. "Eli," Caleb said as the boy adjusted his small satchel, "today we'll explore the northern hills. There are signs of water and maybe even some safe plants for food." Eli's eyes sparkled. "Can I lead the way, Caleb? I've been practicing my observation skills." "You can," Caleb agreed, smiling. "Humans are best when they notice, think, and act, Let's see what you've learned. Lena bounced beside Eli. Me too, I want to help find things. Mara, resting in the small cart, smiled at the children. You've both grown so much, she said softly. I'm proud of you. The journey began slowly, Caleb guiding them but allowing Eli and Lena to take the lead. They scanned the desert floor carefully, marking subtle signs, tracks of small creatures, clusters of plants, and even the shadows that indicated nearby water sources. Good, Caleb said approvingly. Notice the patterns. Humans can survive anywhere when we pay attention and help each other. Eli felt proud, carrying a small satchel filled with useful herbs and water collected along the way. Lena followed, carefully mapping the small landmarks Caleb had taught them to recognize. Mara smiled faintly, her health improving slowly, strengthened by the careful attention Caleb gave her. As they reached the northern hills, the desert stretched wide and open before them. Sunlight reflected off the rocks, making the landscape sparkle. Suddenly, Eli paused, pointing toward a small grove tucked in a hidden valley. Look, water, he exclaimed. And shade, Caleb approached, nodding in approval. Excellent observation, Eli. Humans survive because we notice what others miss. Let's move carefully and make sure it's safe. The group approached the grove slowly, examining the area. The water was clean and clear, the trees offered perfect shade, and the plants nearby seemed safe to collect. It was an oasis, a rare gift in the vast desert. Mara smiled, taking a deep breath. This is beautiful, thank you all of you, Caleb nodded. Humans have a way of finding hope in the hardest places. We notice, adapt, and care. That's our strength. The group rested, collecting water and studying the plants. Eli and Lena worked together, careful to follow Caleb's guidance. See, Mama, Eli said, we're helping. You are, Mara said warmly, more than you know. As they settled by the grove, Caleb noticed distant movement across the desert. Figures were approaching, moving slowly but deliberately. He squinted, analyzing their pace and direction. Humans must always be ready, Caleb said quietly. But remember, we do not need to fight. We can use our brains, courage, and teamwork to handle any challenge. Eli's grip tightened on a small stick he had carried for practice, while Lena watched with wide eyes. Mara's hand rested on Eli's shoulder, steadying him. The figures drew closer. At first, they seemed cautious, curious about the humans in the oasis. Caleb stepped forward and signaled the children to stay calm. Observe, think, and act, he reminded them. The figures paused at the edge of the grove, looking at the humans. Caleb stepped forward slowly, raising his hand in a gesture of peace. We mean no harm, he said. We are travelers, learning from the land, and we respect you. The figures responded, mimicking the gesture. Eli and Lena watched in awe. They realized that humans could communicate without words, using observation and clever thinking to create understanding. See, Caleb said quietly, humans have the ability to turn challenges into opportunities. Courage and cleverness matter more than strength. The creatures approached closer, moving around the grove. Caleb directed the children to gather rocks and sticks and arrange them in patterns to show intelligence and cooperation. They worked quickly, learning from Caleb's calm and steady guidance. The creatures observed the patterns and signals carefully. Then slowly they stepped back, signaling understanding rather than aggression. Eli's eyes widened. We did it, they understand us. Yes, Caleb said, smiling. Humans can face challenges without fighting. We use our brains, our hearts, and our teamwork. That's our power. Mara watched, tears glistening in her eyes. I've never felt so proud, she whispered. We survived, not by hurting, but by being clever and united. The group settled by the grove for the night, collecting water and building a small shelter from the branches. Caleb taught the children how to make simple signals in case anyone approached, using patterns and reflections from the water. Humans survive because we think ahead, he explained, and we protect each other. Eli and Lena practiced, learning to create signals that could be seen from far away. They laughed quietly as they tried different patterns, proud of their cleverness. Mara rested, feeling stronger and safer than she had in months. As night fell, the twin moons rose over the desert, casting silver light over the grove. Caleb sat by the fire, reflecting on the journey. Humans were remarkable, he thought, not because of strength or speed, but because of courage, creativity, and heart. Eli stirred in his sleep, murmuring, "I want to help everyone like Caleb." "You already do, Eli," Caleb whispered. "You have the human spirit, and that's more powerful than anything else." The night passed quietly. The desert was calm, and the group rested deeply. Caleb knew that challenges would come again, but he also knew that humans could face them with cleverness, courage, and care. The next morning, the group prepared to return to the cabin. Eli and Lena carried small bundles of plants and herbs, eager to continue helping. Mara rode in the cart, her strength improving steadily. Caleb led the way, scanning the horizon with sharp eyes. On the journey back, they encountered a gentle herd of desert creatures, moving peacefully across the dunes. The children marveled at them, learning to observe without disturbing. Caleb explained how humans could respect life and the land, finding harmony even in challenging environments. By midday, they returned to the cabin. Caleb helped Mara inside, and the children arranged the supplies they had collected. "Humans learn from the land, from each other, and from every experience," Caleb said. "That's how we thrive." Mara smiled, feeling hope grow within her. "We have learned so much, and yet there's still so much to see," she said. "Yes," Caleb agreed. "And wherever we go, humans will find a way. We'll face challenges, help each other, and survive even when the odds are against us." Eli looked up, excitement in his eyes. "I want to keep learning, Caleb. I want to help everyone." "You will," Caleb said, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Humans shine brightest when we work together, think carefully, and act with courage." The sun set behind the desert hills, casting warm colors across the cabin and the plateau. For the first time, the small family felt a sense of permanence and hope. They were no longer just survivors. They were humans learning, growing, and thriving in a world that was harsh but full of possibilities. Caleb, Mara, Eli, and Lena gathered inside the cabin as night fell. The fire burned warmly, and the twins' moons illuminated the room softly. For the first time, they truly felt safe, connected, and ready for whatever the future might bring. Caleb looked at the children and Mara. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly. "Humans can face any challenge, survive in the harshest places, and shine even when it seems impossible." Eli nodded, hugging his mother. "We'll do it, Caleb. We'll keep learning and helping, just like you said." Mara smiled, feeling hope fill her heart. "We have found safety, knowledge, and courage, and together we can face anything." Outside, the desert whispered softly, carrying the promise of new adventures and discoveries. But inside the cabin, humans had proven their greatest strength: courage, intelligence, cooperation, and heart. And that strength would guide them for all the days to come. The fire crackled, the moons shone, and the small family of humans rested, dreaming of a future where they could explore, learn, and thrive. For Caleb, Mara, Eli, and Lena, the desert was no longer a place of fear. It was a world of possibility, and humans would shine brightly in it against all odds.